you haven't noticed, my camera angle is a little bit askew. And I'm going to leave it like that. Because in the past, I would not have been able to have let myself leave it by that, like that. And maybe it'll be a test for you. Can you watch this video with it a little bit askew? Or do you have to adjust your monitor so that it looks like I am level? um, this divine nugget is going to be about a bit of silliness like that. And it's funny because it's something that I'm recalling that I was persistently and consistently nagging my DM about for a long time that I didn't even realize that I was doing too. And it's about trying to manage people, trying to save people, trying to defend yourself from people all the time, trying to like pre-plan for potential future pain, things like that, and all through like observing the things that people around us do that we don't like. And it's funny because I didn't even know how genius I was back then, just, about it. But I definitely have been more of a rough and tumble eight sort that's like, just stop fucking with those people, and it would be not squishy enough or not understandable enough, and I'd be like, I was in my eight Capricorn energy. I'm like, well, just stop fucking talking to them, or stop doing the thing. Don't do that. There used to be a joke with my family, and it was like, say you accidentally like hit your knee on the table or something, and you're like, ow, fuck, and somebody else would be like, well, don't do that, and it wasn't like it was totally understood. Obviously, you did not mean to do that. Obviously, it wasn't there. That's why it's funny to say it. Like, well, don't do that again, right? And you're like, right? And I mean, it's said within the right spirit, so it's good. But like that to me, like growing up with that as a kid, that very much translated to like if you don't like the thing that you did that doesn't feel good, then why are you still doing it? I know this both like frustrated and eventually delighted my DM in a lot of ways, but I've been more importantly enjoying my own delight in doing that with myself. And like also like sprinkling that sort of divine nugget wherever feels right to do it and helping other people do that. Like, why are we doing this thing that doesn't make us feel good? Why are we observing these people who are over here having a bit of silliness? And like and even I know that I've done. Oh man, I know I've done a bunch of divine nuggets, so I know somewhere in there I've talked about it. Like I think it was like break the rules or something, or break the game. I don't know. I'll do some more divine nuggets about it. But like the more that you can make something fun, the better. It actually takes the edge off of things that before, like, and it's funny because if you're in a stage right now where you're looking at what somebody is doing and you're like, it's bad, it's wrong, and I have evidence and data and I know that they're doing this, like, you're trying to prove that it is true. And when we get into that state, it's this like hyper vigilance, hyper fixation on trying to prove it because, well, for most of us, we grew up having our intuition questioned and challenged and our divine inspiration. Like Abraham talks about it all the time, that like when we're kids, we get trained to not listen to divine inspiration. And so when, we might have a moment where we're like, those people are, I don't want to play with them right now. They're being dramatic, but I feel like they're otherwise good people and I'll just wait until they're done. But then in our minds, our ego comes in and is like, no, wait, but wait, you could get hurt if this happens, or someone you care about could get hurt, or you care about these people and they could get hurt. And then we get the hero, rescuer, villain, bad guy thing going on, and we play into it and we co-manifest it, you know? And like that becomes what most people talk about as drama, right? And when you can look at something like people's typical drama as just a bit of silliness, which I take from it's from Finding Neverland, and I love that movie. I loved it the first time, but when I watched it in this last year, it was really like, oh, I totally love that. Where I mean, the little boy who was Peter, he did not like he had. Between the way they portrayed the character, if I'm imagining this as a child of mine and the things that were going on, then like the kid was first of all heartbroken, and it really like soured his imagination. But like he also just seemed to have a disposition like that. Like I know kids like that. That's just the fun thing for me. In fact, I'm not gonna say his name, but another child that I've always loved. He's just fun. He's fun, and he's like that. Like ask those obvious questions that, like, why are you doing that? Like, why do you always lose your keys? You know, like, and it's funny because it's not that they're bad questions, but so many of us go, oh, I shouldn't ask a question like that. Like, why not? Go ahead and ask it. But the kid who played Peter, though, when he finally let himself get to a place where he was like understanding the beauty in imagination, the beauty in play, the beauty in like a bit of silliness, right? And when he did, like, I think it was near the end of it, like after their mom had passed, and he's sitting with, is it J.M. Barrie? Mr. Barry is what I remember. And Johnny Depp did a beautiful job playing that part. And hey, there's another synchronicity. There's a lot of Johnny Depp synchronicities. Um, but like Peter had him read something that he, well, I think was it, oh, I think Mr. Barry gave Peter the book that he had torn up that had his play in it that his mom saved and put together, and he went and read it, and he was like, I think it's brilliant, and he's like, it's just a bit of silliness, right? And it is. All of it is. It all is. And I think one of the hardest things that society these days is we've really conditioned ourselves into is that we get to this place to where when somebody does something that's painful, or that creates conflict or makes us feel at odds with other people in our community or family or things like that, is we tend to then fixate on that happening again. And like we get stuck in these loops where we don't see that it's really not the end of the world if it does happen again. That it doesn't mean that we have to guard ourselves. And we, even when we start to see that, sometimes we get to a space where we have trouble giving ourselves grace for having a bigger reaction to something in the past when we didn't know that, when we didn't know it wasn't going to come again, you know. But as you continue, just work through it at whatever pace that you can get to, whatever level you can get to. If you're still in a space where you're like, that person's a total bad guy. I know they're a bad guy or a bad gal, and they're doing bad mean things, or they're hurting me, and I'm a victim to it. Well, be in that experience because if you keep doing this kind of stuff, you keep listening to people like me, you're going to get to a state where you're not going to have that experience anymore. You're never going to feel like a victim again. And it's not going to be because you're in this like Captain Hook style uh, vibration of constantly guarding yourself and like creating wars with other people and like I don't know, like you take whatever absurd metaphor feels good to you. That you're not being the beast from Beauty and the Beast. Like you don't need somebody to come in and enchant you to turn you into a beast in order to learn love and self-love and getting there. No, like you can just do that. But like once you get there, I mean, there's not a going back. There's not a going back from healing. Like, there's always more healing to do. That's why we created this human experience. But there's no going back from something that you've already healed from. You might go through cycles that are similar. And at that point, you can see where you are on your own map of healing about how triggered you are. Like, it doesn't mean that you're going backwards if you get triggered. It simply means that you're in an up level, but you're not all the way out of it yet. And if you focus on the fact that you're closer rather than feeling like you went backwards, you continue to build momentum to keep going forward. And that's when you get to that state to where you can really practice what you preach in terms of looking at other people's drama and saying, not even you calling it drama, because that word has so much energy around it. There's so many misconceptions about it. Like a lot of people consider conflict to be drama when sometimes oftentimes conflict is simply two people who are not recognizing that they're each allowed to have separate perspectives and that there is a gel spot in there that you can find if both people are actively interested in that. But there's all sorts of other kind of drama too. So but if you just take that word out, and then when you look at people, like you don't look at them and say they're deceiving me, they're being dramatic, they're running away, they're pursuing, they're chasing, whatever words you might put in there, or they're being lazy or whatever thing. Like just change it to, or if they're being immature. I feel like somebody's sitting there being like putting in more ideas, and I'm already enough of an idea maker, so I'll keep my own energy there. There's another eagle. Right before I started this video, there was an eagle, and I can hear crows around them. And I've been seeing crows like either chasing eagles or flying under eagles for like the last 3 or 4 days. So I know there's some good stuff coming. Um, in any case, if you can get to that place where you can look at all that stuff that before you would have run from or changed who you are for or like tried to dance around so that you didn't accidentally go over somebody's boundary, anything like that, and just be comfortable and just let people have their silliness. And just, just, I mean, it doesn't have to be the thing that works for me. The little boy from Finding Neverland works for me, but find your own happy thought, like from Hook. You can get to the place where you get up on your high flying disc, like Abraham talks about, and get into high vibes by getting to where you feel like, you're just, it's just a bunch of silliness. When people are quote unquote mean to you, it's just a bunch of silliness. If you picked somebody to be around you and you feel like you love them, then what you got to have faith in is the parts of them that you love, that they'll come back, that they'll come around. And if you are dealing with a near stranger or somebody that you've wanted to release for a while and you're really committed to that, you're only holding on to them because of what other people think, then you're having a bit of silliness and you can go ahead and let that go. Hello, Ashley. So you're struggling with dealing with people with not forgiving people. Wait, struggling with dealing with not forgiving people, but completely cutting them off because your pride or belief system can't let you trust or deal with family who intentionally went for you. Well, it's funny. I could see my old mind going like, "Went for you? What does that mean?" But I know what that means. In vibration mind, I know what it means. But the the thing about it, because to be honest, that's not an experience that I am new to, either in cutting people off. In fact, being a Capricorn, that's one of the things that a lot of other signs will either make fun of or bitch about. Is that, and I have Scorpio placements too, like, so it's definitely one of those, like, if I'm done with you, or if you've betrayed me, typically Capricorn Scorpio energy is this energy of just ice out. It's not even like it's not about a science thing. It's just my way of getting to the point. Is that you get to this space to where you're like, I'm so done with you. And we give a lot. This is why this happens. I'm so done with you. You don't exist in my reality anymore. Like that. That's the freeze that they can do. And I used to do that. I used to do that a lot, even if it was painful for me, even if it probably wasn't the right thing to do. I used to do it a lot. And it was a defense mechanism because I did not trust myself. And that's where everything pretty much comes back to. And, it always comes back to self love and self trust. And, like, what do you want to feel? Do you want to, I mean, you don't have to be wrong in order to feel good, but there are definite times when you are right about what people are doing, but all you're doing is remanifesting more and more and more and more of it. So when you get to a place where you're struggling with it, with observing other people doing things that hurt or that are hurting others and you're scared for them, then like you do the you do the butterflies in blue glass thing. Stop observing it. I said earlier in the video, like, there's this joke about if you bang your leg into the table and my family be like see that, you'd be like, ow, and they'd be like, well, don't do that again, right? It was just sassy, right? And it's one of those, like, obviously nobody bangs their leg into the table on purpose, right? Or one of my favorite examples too is like, was the car that I'm sitting in actually. My DM was being bratty about it. Well, he's in separation. And I kept trying to tell him and trying to tell him, like, if you take this car, it's not going to go well for you. It's bad karma. And, and like, let's work together. You're not going to like where this goes. And he just kept it up and kept it up. Didn't want to be mature. And then he wanted to come take it. And I was like, fuck, all right, fine. And I even was in a state where I was like, you know what? I'm just going to laugh now because I know that it's gonna go weird if nothing else. And he did. He got to that point where he didn't want to keep it and he didn't want to get rid of it. And he couldn't get rid of it in a lot of ways. And a lot of really interesting absurdities happened. And I finally told him he was trying to give it back in many ways, And I was like, no, like you're telling me it's in horrible condition. It's not that bad. You're telling me that it needs some stuff that you don't want to put the time and energy into, but you don't want to keep it. You don't want to do this. I was like, sacrifice it to the scrap metal gods. Just do it. And he says, no, I can't. It's green. you know. And like that's what I think of now when I see when I think or hear of anybody else saying I can't do something. Like really most things, like can't is a word that I have a particular issue with, because can't literally means you have no ability to do it. Like um I can't jump 10 feet in the air unassisted. I can't. I'm not built that way. Maybe there's a way I could figure out how to do it, but currently I can't. And I can't live without air, fresh air to breathe. Obviously, I'm a smoker, so I can live without a lot more than most people think they can, or we all can, but we still need air to breathe. We need food to eat. We can't live without at least a reasonable amount of calories every day. But there's very few times when we can't do something that's an emotional task or a healing task. And the trick to that for me has always been to, whenever I hear myself saying, I can't do that, I think two things. The first is that just change can't to won't, and then think about it. Think about the threads. Like, first of all, most of the time we don't change it to I won't, because then we're taking ownership and accountability for something that we just really, really, really don't want to do, or something that we want to do and feel like we can't only because we're lacking certain information or experiences. And when it's that instance, then it's, I'm not there yet. And then you can get another vibration up and say, I'll be there soon. It's noodling around in there. I'll just trust that it'll come about to me when the moment is right. Right? In any case, these this is a Divine Nugget. I've been trying to keep most of them under 20 minutes. Thank you so much for those of you who came in and watched, and I'll do some more videos later. Feel free to bring questions. I love talking about them, and I'll see you in the next video.